currently trying to get a hold of Mitch Kupchak to tell him I'm 50-50. You're listening to 87 Live.
So, that's how you're going to make our glorious return with that?
Yes, it's been 2 weeks, folks. We took a little Independence Day break. I hope no one's too upset with us. And then the week before, while you celebrated your birthday, the moment that you entered this universe.
37 friggin' years.
It's not all it's cracked up to be, is it?
No.
It's really kind of underwhelming.
Yeah. Really, and I agree with the comedian Patton Oswalt said that after you turn 21, you should only really celebrate a birthday every decade. Like every time you turn a new, like 30 or 40 or 50. Because all the rest of them, it's kind of, it's a birthday. I worked.
It sounds like you're being negative, but it's really not. It's they just don't matter.
They don't, yeah.
I hate to sound like that, but
I got a nice meal. I got a nice loving night from my fiance with a nice foot rub and back rub, which can't beat that.
I really don't like the way that you get so excited over that, but
hey, your foot rub and back rub to me is like heaven, especially the foot rub part. Oh my god.
Boy. Okay. So anyway, you're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. The phone number to call in and take part in the chaos is 585-633-7487. That number again is 585-633-7487. You can also reach us over the email at youguysuck@87sportsfans.com and at the Twitter at 87sportsfans.
Twitter.
At the Twitter.
At the Twitter.
All right, so happy week after the 4th, sir.
Yeah, man. It was. How was your 4th?
It was pretty low key. Took the kids to the pool. Other than that, very very low key.
I gotcha.
The what's the word I'm looking for? The obligatory cookout and all that, but nothing really major. You?
It was actually kind of a big day. We had Audrey, who is my fiance, for those of you who don't know, when her parents got together with pretty much my entire family over my brother Andy's house, and we had a major cookout and pool party, and it was quite amazing.
That's awesome.
It was like our big meet and greet before the nuptials, which is, for those who were keeping score, less than 5 weeks away before I walked down the aisle.
Before your voice hits a higher octave.
Yeah, I just hit a high octave there. But I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a nice vacation, too. So,
all right. Well, we had a big sports week this past week with all of the crap with Dwight Howard and the L.A. Lakers and the Houston Rockets and everything like that.
Huge week in sports.
Every freaking angle's been hammered out at this. So, I've said it multiple times. I've written about it multiple times on our blog that I'm not the biggest Dwight Howard fan. I've always thought he's overrated. That doesn't mean I think he's a slouch by any means. I just don't think he's worth all of the hubbub that everyone, the crown that everyone's always trying to put on his head for his just overall just size.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have to admit, and I guess in retrospect, it's not really Howard's fault, because he never officially released any information. But the way that day just went back and forth, it was so Dwight.
Oh, absolutely. It was everything and then where he jumps on Twitter and says, "There was no question. I was always going to Houston." Yeah, whatever. Come on.
Come on. Personally, until I see his name on the contract, I'm not going to believe he's really made up his mind. I don't care how many pictures of James Harden he puts on Twitter. But
that's a little bromance they got going there.
Yeah, well, I hope it works out for him, because once Harden starts taking more shots than him, it'll be very interesting to see what that Houston locker room is really like.
Well, and that's what I'm curious about. Is Harden going to be able to step down from what he was doing last year as the number one scoring threat on that team and kind of go back to the days with Oklahoma City where he had to play really third fiddle to Kevin Durant and Westbrook? Is he going to be able to make that adjustment back down? That to me is going to be the big question.
Right now you're looking at whether or not you believe Jeremy Lin is really a bona fide point guard, and whether or not that eventually is Patrick Beverley's job. going forward for the Rockets. You basically have just Harden and Howard now.
Yeah.
And we've all said that, Howard isn't exactly the most polished offensive player to begin with. So
No.
I guess I'm not saying that the Lakers are really better off right now, because you look at that roster and there are a lot of question marks.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of question marks regarding players coming back from injury. You look at the Lakers, and you don't know what Steve Nash is going to be next year. He says he believes in his heart he's going to be 100%, but he's also a year older, and he wasn't exactly young last year. You got Kobe coming back from the Achilles surgery, obviously, which now, reading on Twitter, which is just ridiculous, that he says it's healing faster than everyone's expected, and he's expecting full contact by August.
That's crazy.
That's just ridiculous.
That's crazy. But I mean, that's kind of the way that injuries have been going in all major sports lately. Is what used to take a year to heal is only taking 6 months.
Right.
I mean, you look at RG3 and Adrian Peterson in the NFL, and I'm not surprised. I mean, modern science is finally making it viable to have an injury like that and come back within 8 months.
So I guess if you're Dwight Howard, do you make that same move? And let's leave the whole money aspect out of it, because there's no income tax in Houston. That angle's been beat to death too. So leave the money out of it, because he ended up leaving $30 million on the table. If you're Dwight Howard and you're looking at those two rosters, does Houston really offer you that much more than what LA has going for it?
I think yes. And yes, for the reason that Houston is a young team, and they have what's very important with this, one is the head coach. Kevin McHale
You're such a homer. You're such a homer.
I'm just saying, Kevin McHale has proven himself with what he did in Minnesota and now what he did last year in Houston, that he can be, I'm not saying a great head coach, but he has the makings of a very good head coach. But more importantly, he is one of the greatest low-post players in NBA history. So what he can teach Dwight, and what players like Akeem the Dream, who are still attached to the Houston organization, can teach him, I think he has a much, much better future ahead of him with Houston than he would with a team like the Lakers, who honestly, in all reality, are losing their luster as a place that players want to go to, especially now with the Clippers building themselves up the way they are, to where next year or the year after, it's very likely they would become a rebuilding team with Dwight Howard. So to him, I think he wants to go to a young team that is kind of already making strides, instead of on a aging team that, two of the main superstars being Nash and Kobe Bryant, and now Metta World Peace is talking about retiring. And then you look at Kobe, you look at Nash, and you look at Gasol. All three of them are at the end of their careers. You take them off of the Lakers, they don't have anything. I mean, they're pretty bad. So Dwight was looking at that probably like, listen, no one in LA likes him. They blame him for what happened last year. And he's a big baby that needs to be loved, and no one loves him right now and anywhere. So you go to a team like Houston, you start fresh with a young team, with a young coach, with a lot of tools around him. I think for him, it was the best move. And for the Lakers.
But I'm going to use your exact argument and flip it the other way now.
Of course you would. You always do that.
Well, yeah. I'm sorry. Did you expect anything
Jane,
different?
you ignorant slut.
Did you? Did you expect anything?
The old point counterpoint, folks. Sorry.
All right, back on track. So if you're Dwight Howard and you're looking at this aging Lakers roster, you are pretty much younger than every other principal part of that team. So when these pieces go away, you are going to be the face of the franchise. Okay? You are going to have that Lakers mantle to be yours. Okay? Anybody that knows anything about the history of the NBA, that if you're a center, to be a Laker center, to be the standard bearer of the franchise, for you to not want that tells me a little bit about what's inside you. And I think that aspect did not appeal to Howard whatsoever. And maybe without coming out and saying it like that, maybe he's being the only real truthful one in this whole situation, because everyone tried to put him there and put that mantle on him, and maybe he's not that player.
Yeah, but you got to also think, the Lakers and the Celtics, tradition is not important anymore in the league. And with the fans. I mean, how many people watching the NBA Finals this year knew who Bill Russell was when he handed the award?
Right.
You know, people like us who know history, but for most people, tradition doesn't mean squat. And so as far as, 2 or 3 years down the line, it's not going to be – the Celtics and the Lakers are just going to be, just going to be teams. It's going to be teams like the Clippers and the Rockets and I mean, now you could say even the Spurs hold more clout than either the Lakers or the Celtics at this point. And it just doesn't have the same kind of pull as it used to. You know what I'm saying?
So if it wasn't about the money, so then what's it about? You're going to tell me that the Rockets with Lynn and Harden, and they just traded Thomas Robinson again to clear space for Dwight Howard. You're going to tell me that roster right now, you feel better off than with Steve Nash, Kobe Bryant, and Pau Gasol?
Yes. And I'm not saying for this season. I'm saying for the next 3 or 4 seasons to come.
But now, okay, so looking at everyone's situation, Harden's under contract. Lynn's only under contract for 2014 to 2015. Ashik, who already wants out of there, is going to be Howard's backup. He's only under contract for 1 more year. Thomas Robinson, and I shouldn't open my mouth if I'm not sure, but I believe they traded Royce White too. Okay, he's already off the books. You know what I mean? There's not a guarantee of anything there after that. And if you're going to look at me in the eye and try to tell me which team I believe has the better chance of leveling the building and building up from square one, well, I'll put my money in with the Lakers more than the Houston Rockets.
But here's the thing, though. Are the Lakers going to do that? Because the Lakers, I agree, the Lakers need to do what Danny Ainge did with the Celtics. Danny Ainge is a genius. Now, as much as I love Paul Pierce and I love Kevin Garnett, and I still, part of me doesn't think Paul Pierce should have been traded just because he is like the Derek Jeter of the Celtics. But Danny Ainge knew they had an old team. They needed fresh young people. So they have a strong young core on that team, traded all of their age away, got insane amount of draft picks for next year, which everyone is touting as like one of the greatest drafts in NBA history is going to be next year, and brought in a solid 36-year-old college coach to say, hey, listen, you have the absolute bare bones of a team, build it into something. And that's what the Lakers need to do, but I don't know if they will ever do that because it is showtime. And part of me doesn't blame them. Everyone looks at the Lakers as the flashy big Lakers, and they've never really had a down moment since before Magic came. And so it's like, how can you go 30 plus years without having like a completely crappy rebuild team? But that's what they're going to need to do because the NBA has changed so much that they can't just rely on drawing in talent because now there's so many other places people can go.
585-633-7487 if you want to join the discussion. Once again, that number, 585-633-7487. Going to Twitter, the Twitter handle is @87sportsfans. Brian tweets, one reason that I am wrong is because of Jim Buss. And
he's a piece of garbage.
Brian's got a point.
Yeah.
But I think that going forward, you're going to see Jeannie Buss kind of creep in there and
I hope so.
And take more control. And don't even talk about the Phil Jackson angle because
No, he's done coaching. He even said he's pretty much done coaching.
Every year he's getting older and older, and the last time he was around, he only wanted to coach home games really anyway, and the Lakers wouldn't do it. So,
but if the Lakers brought him in as like a general manager type thing,
I'd
take like Larry Bird is with Indianapolis,
I'd take him in the front office.
Absolutely. But now, kind of going back to what you were saying before, though, about the Dwight Howard thing, if everyone's account of his meeting with the Lakers is true. If I was him, I wouldn't want to play for the Lakers because D'Antoni, a coach who he doesn't like his system, he doesn't have faith in, comes into the meeting where you're supposed to talk this guy into playing for you and doesn't say a word and sits in the corner of the room. If that's true, then I don't blame Howard at all. I would have walked out of the room and said, you know what, screw you guys. I'm going to play for a D-League team instead of you.
I totally agree. And the only argument that I could come up with as to why the Lakers would be able to convince Dwight Howard to not worry about D'Antoni is that they fired Mike Brown after 6 games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not like they're going to ride him out if they don't feel things are working. They will make a move if they feel things aren't working. I don't have that faith in Jim Buss to make the right decision like he boned it with D'Antoni.
I just don't understand the draw with D'Antoni. I never have. He had some success in Phoenix, but they never amounted to anything. He got him to the postseason, but they never did anything. They never won a title. They never even got to the championship game. So how can you not take to have a team with a 2-time MVP and a lot of talent, never take them to the finals, and all of a sudden you're like this genius that gets pulled around to all the big market teams?
Exactly.
I don't get it.
And you can't tell me that the Knicks were exceptionally successful during his time there either.
No.
You know, and any coach is only as good as the players that you give him. And he had 2 of the best in the league at the time in Phoenix. Mm-hmm. It seems weird to talk about it like a past era, but it really is a past era when most teams only had 2 superstars. Mm-hmm. Now it's the big 3. That's what you need. You need 3 now. 2's not enough. You need 3. Well, whatever. It is what it is. But when D'Antoni was with Phoenix, Nash and Stoudemire should have been enough to get it done.
Mm-hmm. And you had players like Marion, who was solid. He was a solid player. And
think about this, though. Just wrap your brain around it, okay?
I don't know.
Your system helped Steve Nash be MVP of the league. Mm-hmm. Steve effing Nash was MVP of the league.
Twice.
And you still couldn't figure it out? I mean, granted, there were some other decent teams that they were competing with, but again, what is the draw with D'Antoni? What is it about him that made the Lakers look Phil Jackson in the face and say, you know what, we're going to go with this guy now?
Well, and some people were saying that they brought him in just because of Nash. And if that has any truth to it, why you would bring a coach in for a guy that's pushing 40, it blows my mind. Like that, I don't get. I do not get whatsoever. I mean, Nash maybe has 1 more year left if he makes it through next season. But that's going to be it. Like, I don't see him playing any more than that. So you're going to bring in a guy for a 40-year-old, 5'0" point guard who was injured half the year. I don't know. I feel bad for the Lakers. I respect that organization too much to see what is happening to them, and it's disgusting.
They are at a crossroads. Okay,
they really are.
Dwight going to Houston forced them to not amnesty Pau Gasol, and in order to clear up any cap space at all, and I wrote back in June, excuse me, that they probably should think about amnestying Kobe with kind of a wink, wink. We need to sign you at a more franchise-friendly number, because how much money do you really need, Kobe, at this stage of your career? But they end up amnestying Metta World Peace, which I'm so sad to say this, but every time I think of Metta World Peace, I think of him sitting in his underwear on the Jimmy Kimmel show. That's the only
hysterical.
It's the only thing.
And what's funny, too, is you're talking about a player that punched a fat Italian at the Detroit game. But you still think about him and Jimmy Kimmel in his underwear.
Yeah, I don't think about the Malice in the Palace. I think of, So, but if Dwight Howard, if Meta World Peace had been able to stay on the roster, and if Kobe comes back at 100%, which is a big if, just because it's human, nothing against Kobe, a starting lineup of Steve Nash, Kobe Bryant, Meta World Peace, Jordan Hill at the 4, and Pau Gasol at the 5 is not a bad place to start. I don't think that offense is still going to do what D'Antoni wants it to, just because most of those players are old and not quick enough. And there'll still be defensive questions galore. But you'd have a little bit more of a core. And then, while they're waiting for Dwight Howard to make up his mind, and they're jumping through flaming hoops to try to make sure that this overpaid crybaby is fine, Earl Clark up and bolts and goes to Cleveland.
Yeah.
Who was one of the better stories last year for the Lakers. So you get a nice young talent. Who cares whether Earl Clark is ever going to be a superstar? He was a solid young talent that bolts to go be reunited with Mike Brown in Cleveland, which is another side of dysfunction that we won't even get into right now.
Yeah, seriously.
And you're left with this crumbling mess in Los Angeles. And if it's not handled absolutely perfectly, the Lakers are going to be in trouble for a long time.
Well, who would have ever thought that at some point in their history, the Los Angeles Lakers would be the third best team in California? Because you could definitely put the Clippers and the Warriors ahead of them right now, talent level and ability level, and coaching. Both teams have vastly superior coaches, in my opinion.
Look,
who would have ever thought that?
I said it then, and I will maintain it to my dying day, that the Lakers were set on this course when they decided to hire Mike Brown instead of Brian Shaw.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't care how much adjustment Shaw would have had to do in the first year, or you know what I mean, being a first-time head coach. I'm confident that if he would have held enough over from the previous regime that was wildly successful with that personnel, and we would not be facing what we are today.
Yeah. I mean, and not to offend anybody, but even Helen Keller would have known that Mike Brown only had his success because of LeBron James.
We're going to find out, aren't we? Now he's going to Cleveland, and he's got a superstar in Kyrie Irving. And I didn't know much about their number one pick this past draft, but doing some research and watching the film that I put in my blog post, that kid's got a chance. We'll see.
Yeah. But then they go do a bonehead move by bringing in Bynum.
Okay, which is now you're going to jump topics here.
No, I'm not jumping topics because we're going to go into a break soon, and that's going to be our next topic.
All right, but
I was doing a setup.
While we're talking about the Dwight Howard fiasco, because this is kind of going to mend into how I want to address topic number 2, is that the Dallas Mavericks can't seem to get a single free agent to even want to look at them anymore. If you remember, a couple years ago, there was rumors about Darren Williams ending up there, and they were going to have this giant, they were going to get a big 3. It was going to be Dirk, Darren Williams, and I'm drawing out. And I think maybe they were counting on Howard to be the big 3. And now, if you look, right, still to make up his mind. He just fired his agent today, too, which just blows my mind. Anyway, and he's narrowed it down to the Hawks, the Kings, the Mavericks, or the Bobcats. To me, if I look at those names of those teams, it would be the Mavericks, hands down.
Yes. Because they have some talent, but they have some aging players. I mean, right now, probably their future is in the hands of O.J. Mayo. Because Sean Marion, Nowitzki, Vince Carter, Elton Brand, I mean, those guys are getting a little long in the tooth. So
he just signed with the Bucks, I think. No, who did he sign? Yeah, he just signed with the Bucks. O.J. Mayo's a Buck.
Oh, he signed with the Bucks. Oh, see, there you go. Now he's not even on the team.
So that's what I mean. There is literally nothing in Dallas to speak of.
Except for an owner with deep pockets.
Right. But those deep pockets haven't allowing them to really attract anybody yet.
Yeah.
So it's from a team that just won the finals not too long ago, hoisting that trophy. They make the Lakers look like a stable organization right now.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, right now, Monte Ellis, I would stay away from the Mavs just because what we've just talked about. I mean, they're fledgling right now, to say the least. I would stay away from the Bobcats because the one thing Michael Jordan proves is he's a terrible executive. I would stay away from the Kings just because the Kings are awful. I would probably go with the Hawks. I mean, they have some solid talent. They have the worst fans in the NBA, but they have solid talent. And
they just lost Josh Smith to the Pistons.
Yeah, but I mean, the rest of their players are. I'd have to say they have a better roster overall than any of those other teams.
You got Al Horford. You got Lou Williams, who is not nothing. He's a young player.
Exactly.
Deshaun Stevenson under contract. And then after that, that's it, pretty much. So there's more than those other teams.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Atlanta is one of those teams where they just seem to magically put it together, but they always seem to not be able to get past the 52 win mark.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're the proverbial almost there franchise. So it's basically trying to pick which puddle of vomit to lick for Monte.
That's disgusting.
It is.
And especially because the Eastern Conference is going to be much stronger this year than it was this past season. Because this past season, the Eastern Conference was pretty lame. I mean, you had Miami, briefly the Knicks, who I thought were grossly overrated, and then really Indiana. And everyone else was decent to awful. But this season, you know, there's a lot of people that are going to make some noise, especially with the Nets picking up. Still blows my mind that they picked up Garnett and Pierce, which, you know, God bless them, but I mean, you picked up two players that maybe have a year or two left. I don't get that, but maybe they just are looking for somebody to give them a little bit of a leadership presence. But
right.
Overall, I think it's gonna be a very interesting season this year.
Oh, absolutely! But it'll even be a more fascinating offseason next year with the big name LeBron James being supposedly a free agent. But we'll see what happens with that, which will lead us into our next topic. So let's take a quick break. When we get back, we'll be talking Cleveland Cavaliers basketball. You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio.
We don't have to sacrifice. Don't have to change our ways. Just keep rolling on and on. body's getting old. I'm having trouble speaking. And my eyes can't make believe that they still see. I'm going through all of this. I'm walking away. I'm leaving no regrets. The end begins today. Because this inconsequential life, it's killing me. It's killing me. Yeah, it's killing me. It's killing me. You're running, you're running, you're running, you're right, you're running, you're running, you're running, you're right. I can't stay in the haze, you could run it off the days of local code, lost in different time zones, baby. Go clean your clutter out, then string it up and call it out. Approval of some random strangers, just enough to signal danger. Well, look, we're back again, say to you, remember when you were just another face slowly being erased. Say to you, remember when you were just another face slowly being erased. You're running, you're running, you're running, you hide, 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 you're running, you're running, you're running, you hide. Yeah, you're running And then there's road laid up before you, but you don't know where to go to. It doesn't really matter, just so your heart's not shattered. Cause you never deal with things, you can just extend your wings. Take off flying far away to any place you feel safe. So stop your running now, come back and we'll talk it out. Now that things have settled down, we can find some common ground. Common ground, common ground, common ground, rap, 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 rap. You're running, you're running, you're running, you hide, 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 you're running, you're running, you're running, you hide. I can't stay in the haze. I can't stay in the haze. Stop you running now, running now. Come back and we'll talk it out, talk it out, talk it out. Stop you running now, stop you running now. You're running, you're running, you're running, you hide, you're running, you're running, you're running, you hide, you're running, you're running, you're running, you hide, you're running, you're running, yeah, you hide, you're running, you're running, yeah, you
Waking up to action dust.
You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. 585
That's us.
585-633-7487. Once again, 585-633-7487. I want to take a minute and I want to talk to you all now about CG Imaging. Some of you may hear us talk about that from time to time and wonder just what it is that they do. Well, they bring your ideas to life, and they do it with 3D realistic animation. Say you are trying to pitch an idea to your boss, but your sketches, your words just aren't doing the trick. Go to CG Imaging. Maybe you're trying to sell a product to a customer and you're trying to show them what your product, your item will look like in their space. CG Imaging can make that happen. Maybe you're starting a business and you need a logo. Well, they designed our logo and the header for our website. So go to their website, cg-imaging.com. CG Imaging, virtually creating reality.
That was dramatic.
You like that?
I didn't say I liked it. I said it was dramatic.
Oh, sorry.
I did like it. I'm just kidding.
The email, you guys suck at 87sportsfans.com. Twitter handle is at 87sportsfans. If you're not a follower already, what are you waiting for, honestly? And I just don't get it. Anyway, so news today that when I came up with the rundown for today, it was still up in the air, and then as seems to be the course during Wednesdays, for whatever reason, things change. Things get cemented. And Andrew Bynum has made it clear that he will be a Cleveland Cavalier, signing a 2-year deal, supposedly incentive-laden. I think this is... How do I put this right? This is the right kind of risk to take, because if he can come back and even be serviceable, you get yourself a big man to go along with your all-world point guard and your, he's number 1 pick overall. You hope your impressive rookie wingman. What do you think?
I think the move is, pardon my French, batshit crazy.
And there goes the non-explicit label on iTunes.
PG-13. It's PG-13. You are looking at a young man who is supremely talented. I will give you that. I've always thought Bynum has very good mechanics, and he is very skilled. But he is I guess you can consider him an NBA veteran, even though his age does not show it as much as his time. You know, he did come right out of high school, but he's 25 years old. He's already an NBA veteran. He's only played one full season. In fact, he only has one season where he's played more than 65 games. And that was his second year, 2006, 2007. He played a full 82 games. It's the only season he played more than 65 games. He is a very immature head case, which a lot of people saw with the Lakers. And he's a guy at 25 who already has severe injury issues, including the arthritis in both of his knees that kept him out of the entire season last year with Philadelphia. So to me, when you're trying to rebuild a team, which let's be serious here, Cleveland is rebuilding a team, they couldn't have picked a more broken down horse to get behind than Andrew Bynum, who may not even play a game with Cleveland. Who knows if he's even going to come back and play. He could start like he did last year with Philadelphia. He could start in training camp and be out again. I mean, last year he made over $20 million growing an afro, which I wish I had that problem. I couldn't grow an afro, though, if I tried.
But by the way, stop by our Facebook page, facebook.com/87sportsfans. I changed the old cover photo today to probably my favorite Bynum face.
I saw that. It was an awesome cover photo.
But anywho, the thing with Bynum is that, you know, you're left scratching your head an awful lot. Because he does have that potential. And the last full season he played with the Lakers, he had a 22.9 efficiency rating, which is pretty damn good. You know, and then if you're trying to compare him, you know, again, I always go back to the basketballreference.com win shares. You know, he has, you know, for the most part, you know, he's right up there, and if not better, with decent players. Maybe not, you know, the best in the centers to ever play the game. But he's similar to what Joakim Noah could give you if he was healthy. But the problem is that the last time that we saw Andrew Bynum on a basketball court, he was decking J.J. Barea.
Yep.
In the closing minutes of the Lakers series losing game to the Dallas Mavericks, and getting ejected and taking his jersey off and all that mess. So there are big psychological questions with Mr. Bynum. And yes, he was drafted out of high school and all, but he's 25 years old. He knows better.
And what I'm wondering is also how much of it truly is his talent. Because you can put an average center around players like Kobe. And now I know this is gonna kind of pull into the Dwight Howard thing, but I'm not pulling Dwight Howard in this conversation. But you can put an average center, a young center like him, who doesn't already have a chip on his shoulder, somebody who's, trying to grow, and put him around players like a Metta World Peace and a Kobe Bryant and a Paul Gasol and Big Shot. Wait, was Big Shot Bob still on the team in 2009 when they won the championship? I can't remember.
No. He was on the San Antonio.
I can't remember.
Or out of the league. He was retired by then.
Oh, he was retired by then? But you put him on a team with those players, and it's a lot easier to play better than if you're on a team like Cleveland where you're the number one focus for the opposing team on defense. It's going to be interesting if he does play to see how he adjusts that, because so far he's not had to play on a team where he's the superstar. And even though Cleveland has some good young players, like we were talking earlier with Kyrie Irving, Bynum is still going to be the veteran, like all-star on that team if he plays. So I'm kind of curious to see how he adjusts to being the number one guy instead of being the number 3, number 4 guy.
Oh, he wouldn't. I disagree with you on that. He wouldn't be. That's Kyrie Irving's team. He would be a compliment.
Okay, well, let's say he's the number 2.
Yeah, no, he's not. Yeah, he's not going to be the number 1 option. But
even at the number 2 option,
but the only thing that he's got going for him is that Mike Brown is somewhat familiar with him. You know what I mean? But everyone forgets that all those years in Los Angeles, he had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar tutoring him.
Yeah,
for a lot of those. And that last year, when he started to lose his composure a little bit, was when the franchise distanced themselves from Abdul-Jabbar. So how much? You know what I mean? How much can this kid really be out on his own? And
that's the thing.
Yeah,
is he going to be able to step into a leadership? Okay, even if he's not the number 1 option, he's still the one of the highest paid and most road weary. Well, I don't even say road weary because he is, but most experienced veterans on that team, and he's going to need to take on a leadership role. But he is so immature and so just Looney Tunes. I think he's gone mentally. You spend a whole year just being a clown on the bench making millions of dollars. Who knows if he's even regressed a little bit from what he was that last season with the Lakers mentally. So I don't know. I think it's a huge gamble when they could have gone in other directions, especially with something we've talked about, and I know I've really been talking about. This is not a big man's league anymore, and to prove it, you have a team like Miami that's won the last 2 seasons with a power forward / center in Chris Bosh playing like crap, but the smaller, talented players are picking up the slack. And I think that's how the NBA is turning. So to put all that money and hope into a broken young center, I don't know. I think it was the wrong move to make.
So, but you're right. It's not a big man's league anymore. But that's why if you can get one, it's all the more to your advantage.
But is it?
I believe so, because if you're better off having one and having to figure out how to play a team that doesn't have a post presence than you are not having one and having somebody strut in with one. I don't know if that made sense or not.
It makes sense. But
I would rather have to try to teach my big man how to defend away from the basket than walk in with a bunch of undersized bodies and have a 7-footer just camping out on the block all day.
But that's the thing, though. Most of the teams that were in the finals, and not in the finals, but in the playoffs this year that had success, were primarily fast break teams. Bynum isn't going to be able to run. I mean, even if he comes back and has abilities, his knees are still shot. Those will never get better. Like, they are what they are. And he's never going to be able to keep up with like a 6'10" power forward / center that can sprint up and down the court. He's quickly a person like him. Like Dwight Howard's different because he's an athletic freak who can run and who can move. But someone like Bynum, who even when he was on the Lakers still didn't have that good of mobility, he's not going to be able to keep up with some of these guys, like I said, who are 6'10", 6'11", and can run up and down the court like a small forward. Mm-hmm. He's like, that's something they're not going to be able to teach him because he physically is not going to be able to do that. And it's, I don't know. I think it's going to be definitely. I think it's just going to be a wait and see to see exactly how he comes out.
But if you could pair him now, if he's healthy again, if he can stay on the court for even 72 games, okay, to pair him with a player like Anderson Varejao, who has played center the last 3 years, but has played power forward in the past, and is coming off his best season from an efficiency standpoint at over 21. You have the makings of a front court to bookend your point guard, and last year's number 1 pick Deion Waiters, who everyone is saying may be a sixth man this year. I think they're really trying to position themselves for a run should LeBron James be available. Colin Cowherd said, he was talking about it this morning, he's got a house you can't sell in Akron. So Did you just hear that?
Yeah, what was that?
That was my stepdaughter. And her trumpet that's attached to the front of her face. That's no blood yet. But anyway,
I thought she broke wind. I didn't know.
No. It wasn't that end.
Nice.
So,
but I mean, you look at it. So, LeBron is going to have so many more options that.
But you can't tell me that wouldn't appeal to him a little bit. I don't know whether he would do it, but you can't.
I don't think it will. Because honestly, it's an upgrade from what he had in Cleveland last time, but it's not that much of an upgrade.
It's a black and white upgrade. You know what I mean? It's not even an upgrade. Like an upgrade is like when you trade in your older model car for the same car of the new model of that same car. This is going from a Prius to a Cadillac. You know what I mean? Compared to what he used to have.
But here's the thing. I don't think we can make that call yet until we see how they play together and how some of these young players play in their first, second seasons.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I'll give you that.
Because, I mean, you could say what you want on paper, but if you're even looking for an on-paper team, there's still at least a half dozen to a dozen more teams that are more talented that would be more than happy to take in LeBron than Cleveland. It would just have to be, does he want to go back home?
If I'm a Cavaliers fan that has been waiting for some sign of anything since LeBron James went to Miami, I'm really excited about how that team is positioned going forward. Again, they could go out and win 25 games next year, and we're talking about what went wrong. But sitting here today, what they have on paper, if I'm a Cavaliers fan, I'm really excited. I am getting like, you know what? Maybe, you know what?
You know what? I will have some meatloaf. Let's have some meatloaf. You want some? I need to go. Hey, Mom! The meatloaf! We want it now! The meatloaf!
We want some of that Cleveland meatloaf.
Oh, my God. You've been waiting way too long to play that clip.
You have no idea.
I can imagine. Probably 2 weeks now.
I've been waiting. I've had that queued up.
Honestly, to me, Cleveland, the one thing they need to hope and pray is that Miami does not win another championship. Because I think if Miami three-peats, which, they are still the most talented team. If Dwayne Wade can come back healthy in this next season, they're still easily the most talented team because another year of playing together is only going to make them better. And Chris Bosh has something to prove, especially going into another season where he's getting closer to his contract being up. I think LeBron, if he three-peats with Miami, he will not be able to leave until that well is run dry. Because he will want to do the Jordan, 6 championships with one team kind of thing. And once you win 3 in a row, I can't see you leaving until you lose that first one. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because you got to keep going. And so if they win this year, I don't think LeBron's going anywhere. He will be in Miami for at least another season.
Bosh and Wade are both under contract.
Mm-hmm.
All 3 of them are subject to the early termination option, so the amnesty clause. Chalmers will be a free agent after next year.
Mm-hmm.
Battier will be a free agent after next year. Ray Allen is on a 1-year deal. So there will be a lot of, and the Birdman's back for I think he signed a 2-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
There will be a lot of question marks about where the Miami Heat go, regardless of what happens next year.
Mm-hmm.
But if LeBron decides that enough is enough, if they don't, like you said, if they win, it probably changes everything. Because why would you take a chance on nobody in recent decades has won 4 in a row?
And if it wasn't for a meltdown 2 years ago against Dallas, they would be a three-peat team right now.
Right. So if you had a chance to one-up Michael Jordan, you know what I mean? Because that's, again, we've talked about it before. That's really what LeBron is facing.
Yeah,
he's the best player in the world. No one's ever doubting that. We're constantly comparing him to the all-time greats. So if you have a chance, an opportunity to do something that number 23 has never done, I agree with you. I think that's too rich to pass up. But if they end up not winning the finals next year, then I think that there are going to be some ideas that run around his head that maybe Pat Riley's not ready to deal with.
Yeah. And I mean, really, if you think about it, there's only one team in NBA history that has won multiple championships, and that was the Celtics with Bill Russell. They won from 59 to 66. They won every championship. And that's it. That's the only other team. So if he can get himself in that Bill Russell category, which is, a lot of people still believe that is like the creme de la creme just because he won 11 championships. And that stretch where they won, 11 out of 13 seasons they won championships. If he can get himself into that, I mean, that untouchable, because even Jordan, like you said, isn't in that echelon. Like, that's the untouchable echelon of champion. I don't think you can pass that up. I really don't.
I would agree with you there. So, we're coming up on the magic hour. It's the best 20 minutes. It's the longest 20 minutes of our week because it always ends up being 30 to 40 minutes.
It ends up being an hour.
We're going to talk NFL news and notes with Jim Saranteas, the Fantasy Greek from thefantasygreek.com. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's that football time. You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. The number 585-633-7487, 585-633-7487. Talking football when we get back.
With lust for the touch of your hand, I hate to
Joan Jett, you know. Woke up to some wailing, was Van Halen on my radio. Parachute pants, skinny ties, Michael J. Fox, family ties, 1984. Radio, 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 radio. Don't want no more 90s shit. Nirvana was cool and maybe Pearl Jam, but that was it. Give me Springsteen, rock and roll, Cheap Trick, not Oingo Boingo. Hey, Joey Ramone, leave Michael Jackson at home. Radio, 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 radio. Radio, 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 radio. One-hit wonders, they all were stars. Billy Joe, the alarm, boombox hanging on my arm. Radio, 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 radio.
so real, living for free. So why do we stop ourselves? 'Cause life ain't waiting. Pack it up and then we're gone. I whisper close to your ear, we're gonna make it better now. We're gonna make it better now. We're gonna make it better now. We're gonna make it better now.
We'll have the second coming of the Patriots.
No, seriously.
You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. It's that magic time of the week, kids.
You were gonna say year.
No. It's
You were gonna say year.
honestly, it's a better week than we could ever hope for. And now I see that we lost our special guest, so I'll take this time to talk to everybody about CG imaging again. Some of you may hear us talk about CG imaging and wondering just what it is that they do. Well, they bring your ideas to reality with 3D realistic animation. And oh, see. As at the Fantasy Greek from thefantasygreek.com, here to talk NFL news and notes like we do every week. Jim, how the heck are you?
Keith, I'm doing great. I survived guest hosting 2 weeks ago with you while he was out celebrating his birthday. Thanks for the opportunity, but if it comes up again, I'll try and find something else to do.
It was so traumatic that we couldn't do a show last week. So
No, actually, it was a great time. I thoroughly enjoyed it. You don't realize how much goes. I know what goes into the little, half hour to hour I do with you guys once a week, and what goes into 2 hours, man. Woo.
Just mentally spent afterward.
Yeah, it's a lot of BS and fluff you have to come up with to get to our level of skill.
Don't say it out loud, okay?
Right.
It's already part of public record. I can't help it.
There you go.
So in the NFL, despite all of the news about Aaron Hernandez, which I just can't talk anymore about, it is what it is, and seemingly all of the players that seem to be falling into legal trouble, the New York Giants finally came to terms with a key piece of their offense in Victor Cruz, and I don't know if you got a chance to see the piece that I wrote. I really feel that they may have overpaid a little bit and reached for somebody that really doesn't fit the mold as that prototypical X receiver. He lines up a lot in the slot, and I know he's got a big fat yards per catch average, and he's doing a lot of vertical routes, very kind of like similar to what Marcus Colston does in the Saints offense, where he lines up all over the field, but really just running one route deep down the field, which I guess isn't really a fair comparison because Cruz does a lot more than that, but when I say he lines up in the slot and plays in between the numbers, he's not catching all 2-3 yard, throws and turning it upfield. He is running deeper routes from those positions. So I guess I'm trying to clear up any misconceptions that may have been in my piece. But getting back on point, I feel they overpaid. What are your thoughts on that?
First of all, I think everybody needs to recognize that the wide receiver position has changed so much from, let's say, 5-7 years ago. When I on our site, I want to say it was a week ago, I posted our top 10 wide receivers. And one of the things I pointed out is it used to be you could look at every single team and pick their X receiver, and that made up the first 32 picks of wide receivers in fantasy football, just as a sort of a general proposition. With, some guys, a second wide receiver on some of those teams actually being in the top 32, but in general, you knew there was one go-to guy on every team. Now that's completely changed with the surge of slot receivers suddenly having huge roles in offenses, such as a Wes Welker. This year we'll probably see that from Tavon Austin. I mean, the offensive game in terms of the aerial attack has completely changed, and you don't have to have a 6'4", 6'5" guy out in the X, basically grabbing every single ball that's being thrown. The slot receivers now are really the bread and butter of a lot of teams, and we're probably going to see more of that, just like we'll probably see more of these 2 tight end sets. So, I mean, it's $7.65 million per year for a guy that outplayed and outproduced their ex-receiver. I think the Giants got a reasonable bargain in Victor Cruz, because I really do think that he's still one of the top 15 wide receivers in the league.
I think that, and I see your point, and he is kind of a unique animal because he does do a lot for that offense from various positions on the floor. But when you look at that roster that they have, I mean, the only one that they have that really fits that mold, and again, I know you just said that you don't really need it these days, but it doesn't hurt to have, and that's Ruben Randall, who shows flashes, but they can't really be, relying on him, can they?
Well, here's how I think it's going to play. Basically, in terms of your third wide receiver for the Giants, it's between Ruben Randall and Louis Murphy. Louis Murphy is unfortunately now sort of become a journeyman, going from the Raiders to the Panthers, now to the Giants. He's an extremely talented wide receiver. Can't say that he's been put in the best positions to thrive, so something could come of him this year. Mm-hmm. But Ruben Randall is the next guy up. I believe amongst the three, he's either in the middle or the tallest. If they can't work something out with Hakeem Nicks and he leaves, and they choose not to franchise him, which is an option. I was reading somewhere that to franchise him, I think it was going to cost roughly 10, 11 million, something like that. Mm-hmm. Ruben Randall would be the next guy up, and you know what? They're going to play. They're going to move on if that's what they have to do.
What's your gut? And again, here's my wacky out of left field question that I didn't tell you about before. What's your gut? Because it just occurred to me. What's your gut feeling about Hakeem Nicks? I can't see them paying a whole lot of money for Nicks, who is constantly banged up and in and out of the lineup.
I would tend to agree with you. He's in a strange situation, and the situation is this. He presents as the team's number one receiver, and even though the numbers don't bear that out, he has in his 4 seasons yet to have a complete season. Yet, as we all know, he's got talent. In free agency next year, and I honestly don't know what other wide receivers will be available, but you have to think that if he's a free agent and he's healthy, that there's a team out there that will take him and will pay him well. But he's got to balance that against the risk of if he doesn't sign something long-term right now and he gets hurt again, or it's a serious injury, that he might miss out. So I think if the Giants offer a little bit more than what they're paying Cruz, I think Nick should take it and just get some security in his future and remain a New York Giant. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they will move on.
Yeah, I guess I can kind of see Nick's digging in from that standpoint that you just said, is that this is probably his shot to get a long-term deal. Because God forbid if they franchise him and he shows up and he gets nicked up again, no pun intended, he's I
was waiting for that.
But he's got to be realistic, and it's the thing that sort of in this offseason I've talked about, especially about the defensive end position. So it's not so much the wide receivers are in the same boat, but this is a different market. Unless you're the first guy signed in free agency and really an extreme talent such as Mike Wallace, you're not going to necessarily get that big payday. It's just, I think it's going to start becoming far and few between because more teams are going to say, we've got young, talented guys. You don't have to be a superstar, and we don't have to pay him as much. So, I'd like to see him do the deal, but if he doesn't, I could see that too because, again, without knowing what other free agent wide receivers are out there, he could look at this and say, this is a huge payday for me. Let me go for it.
So last year was Randall's rookie year out of LSU, second-round draft pick, and played in all 16 games but only started one. Caught 19 balls for a 15.7 yards per reception average. So it's not altogether bad. That's just not enough of a sample to really make a decision on.
It's not. And this year is a big year to see what he does and how he fits into the offense. The reports of Ruben Randall coming out of college were way positive. So, if it just because it takes him a year or two to develop, that's not a surprise for the position. But obviously, we all hope that if you're a Giants fan, you hope that really is apparent this year.
He's 6'4" and 22 years old. It's what we call upside.
Yeah. He must be the tallest of the three. Then I remember looking at them and sort of comparing their physique and saying to myself, "Oh, this guy's a big guy."
I won't laugh. I'll just chuckle. I'll just mute my mic and chuckle.
Not for the physique, but that was pretty good.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Hey, I'm not judging.
You're drinking beer, so it's okay.
What you do in your spare time is your business, sir. Also, we had Matthew Stafford sign a nice big extension. Stafford is an interesting subject in my mind, because he's got all the tools. He had a lot to prove as far as he had the label injury prone, and he lived up to that his first couple seasons in the league. But last year, kind of hung in, and I believe the year before was injury free, if I'm not mistaken. He's got a nice big talent target in Calvin Johnson, which I think makes his life a lot easier. He's got he's got the arm. He can sling it, but where does he sit on your list of active quarterbacks?
And I all right, let me start off by saying this while I pull it up. I love this guy, and I've heard people talk about quarterbacks now that I've sort of dug my head out from all my research and all my writing, and sort of just kind of listening to what does the rest of the world think. And I'm very surprised people are not touting Matt Stafford as a fantasy football quarterback this year, because he not only has he proven that he's talented and talented behind an offensive line that has from time to time struggled. He's proven that he can, in a very short amount of time, throw the ball as much as two of the greats in the league, and that would be Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees. And what I mean by that is in the past two seasons, Matt Stafford has thrown for. One year he broke 5,000 yards. The other year he was real close. 2 seasons ago, I want to say he had 30-plus touchdowns because he was just a fantasy starlet that particular year. But last year, the biggest disappointment was even though he racked up 5,000 yards passing, he only had 20 touchdowns. So, if you had Matt Stafford, that killed you until the end of the season, which is when he started to put up those numbers. Now, in terms of ranking him, I don't have him in the top 5, and for some reason my computer's really slow right now, but I believe I have him ranked 6th or 7th, I want to say.
Hey, I'm all for it because he's my quarterback on my fantasy team. Mm-hmm. Steve will tell you I won the championship last year in our league.
Yeah, I will never tell anyone that. But now here's the thing: going on to everything you just said, I think you also, when you add in Reggie Bush, is not the greatest running back in the world, but he's going to be able to take some of the heat off of Stafford. So this could very well be a huge year for him. So I agree with everything you just said.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that are going for him. He's got Calvin Johnson. He's got a guy that I love that I think if people are going to draft a second wide receiver from the Lions, make it Ryan Broyles. Here's a guy that in limited play, he ended up, there was just a debacle at that second and third wide receiver position last year for the Lions. You had Nate Burleson who got hurt. We had the whole issue with, what's his name? I've already forgotten him.
The guy that was arrested 3 times in a week.
Yeah. Him, and then obviously they picked up Mike Thomas, and you had Ryan Broyles, and he just had flashes. And there were a couple games that, he looked like the second coming of Randall Roberts, which everybody is just so high on. This is a guy that is that speed receiver that, he's going to make a huge difference for the Lions. I would draft him before Nate Burleson in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm. See, now, Titus Young was the Lions receiver. God, brain fart. So now I pulled up the NFL active net yards per pass attempt leaders. Okay? So career net yards per pass attempt. Active players. Where do you think, if you had to guess, Matthew Stafford would be on this list?
He might not be that high because if I'm right, last year he threw the ball 650 times or so.
Oh, so you're saying watering down that
right? So he's throwing it so many times to the number of yards that he's accumulating.
Mm-hmm. He's 15th on that list.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Who else is on it?
Above him is Josh Freeman at 14.
Wow.
Jay Cutler at 13.
Oh, God.
Yeah, exactly. Eli Manning at 12. Carson Palmer at 11. Matt Ryan at 10. Roethlisberger at 9. Brady at 8. Cam Newton, he's only got 2 seasons, but Cam Newton at 7. Drew Brees at 6. Phillip Rivers at 5. Matt Schaub at 4. Aaron Rodgers at 3. And there is a tie for the number 1 spot. 1 is Peyton Manning. I'll give you a candy bar if you can guess the other one.
Tom Brady.
No, he was already said him. He was 8th.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Wow.
Steve-O?
I'm going to say Kaepernick.
No, it was only one
No.
season.
I'm just throwing out names. I don't know who the hell.
How about Eli Manning?
Nope, he was down at 12.
Okay.
Tony Romo.
There he is.
Well, that's believable.
It's believable.
They must have added the yards in from the interceptions.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm telling you, he's a guy that, he's not going to be Drew Brees, even though I know he could be. He's not going to be Aaron Rodgers, but he's just a steady guy every year. It's like clockwork what he puts up in stats. And even for the years that he was hurt, if you projected out his stats, he would still finish with exactly, sort of what he had done in a healthy season. And, the only thing that's holding him back is that offensive line.
Right. They got the running back, supposedly, if DeMarco Murray can stay healthy.
Yeah, he was. There was an interview with him earlier today. I want to say it was on ESPN, and I actually caught it. He's such a likable guy, and he's such a team player. He was asked the very standard questions without much follow-up or feedback. And, he answered them the right way. But at the end of the day, when they were showing his highlight tapes from college and then his highlight tapes from the Cowboys, you could immediately see one of the biggest differences was the blocking that he was getting in college. He was given a ton of space to run, where with the Cowboys, he's running for his life, and he's just taking some big hits.
Right. Outstanding.
I hope so.
Outstanding. So now the 49ers come to terms with their first-round pick, safety Eric Reed, slated, at least obviously with training camp not opening yet, to be the starting safety alongside Dante Whitner. He's replacing Deshaun Goldson, who I was trying to remember different tweets that I had seen from 49er fans, and I don't remember them really being that enamored with Goldson. But he was first team All-Pro last year, Pro Bowl player the last 2 years. Managed to pick off 3 balls and defend 10 which equaled his total from 2011 too. So from a top of the defense standpoint, what do you think? Is he going to be able to step in, and will there be any kind of loss in the performance? And from a fantasy standpoint, how will that affect the Niners' defense, if at all?
Well, first of all, Eric Reid is definitely a capable football player. He was the second highest ranked free safety in this draft, right behind Kenny Vaccaro. He's a very talented guy. He's a ball hawk. He can tackle, which is actually a very important thing for a safety. He's a bigger safety, 6'1". Golston was 6'2", but he's slightly faster than Golston when you actually look at their 40 times. The 49ers reports are positive on him, so I think he'll be fine in the defense. Obviously, he's going to have some sort of a learning curve as a rookie, but he's a good unit. I like the 49ers. I mean, they have to be the number 2 or the number 3 rated defense for fantasy football. I would have no hesitation taking them if they were the next best defense available after the Seahawks. And it's close between them and the Texans. So one of those two will probably be the second defense drafted.
Excellent.
Yeah. So it's hard with younger players coming out of college. Defensively, it's I don't want to say that defense is easier than offense, but I think defensive players. I mean, a lot of it is about getting to the ball, reading the offenses, and playing hard. Offense, you've got to run a play, and that could take some time for a former college athlete to learn. So, I like his chances, and obviously, I mean, what better team to be on?
Right. I know they were at the end of the first round, obviously, being the NFC champions. So, and once you get into that leg of the draft, there's really very little difference between the end of the first and the top of the second. But it's ironic that, because I've always been in this mindset that very rarely, if ever, should you take a safety with your first-round pick. And he's playing next to Dante Whitner, who was drafted by the Bills, and I think he was a top 10 pick. And I remember just when that pick was announced, Marv Levy was running the show for Buffalo, and I just shook my head like, oh, the old man's got to go.
Well, I will have to say I was a little stunned by the 49ers taking him, but I was stunned by a couple things that they didn't do. And really, I think the biggest thing that stunned me was they didn't take a defensive tackle. I thought that was something that they could really use. They ended up, I forget who they drafted, but he was, I think, a defensive end who, when you looked at his height and his weight, I mean, might as well have been a defensive tackle. So they sort of probably addressed the need on their depth chart. But, when you're a team, because you're never going to win a Super Bowl championship with the number one cornerback. And I think we talked about that before, but here's the thing: if you're the 49ers and you sort of have choices because you're so strong in so many different positions, safety in the first round, there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah, they're definitely in a position of luxury. Whereas when the Bills selected Whitner, there was a lot more other places they could have used that pick.
Or how about the Raiders taking DJ Hayden? I mean, that was a head scratcher to me. That news on Hayden and being drafted in the first round by any team, first of all. Secondly, by the Raiders, broke the day of that draft, probably within hours of the draft. And I'm thinking to myself, well, this is crazy. Why would a team that has so many different needs, even if this guy is the second coming of Nnamdi Asomugha, why take him when you can get a top defensive end, when you can get a top tackle? And, it's kind of a stunner because, I mean, anybody who looks at their roster right now immediately looks at an offensive line that you're scratching your head saying, are they going to be able to protect these quarterbacks? And you're looking at a defense that's very young, very inexperienced. It's got a lot of guys who were not the premier or elite player on the defenses they came from, so they've got a lot of work, and they're probably going to have some growing pains. And why they didn't take an elite defensive end or offensive tackle is sort of beyond me.
Somebody tweeted today that they wouldn't be surprised if Reggie McKenzie loses his job after this year.
Yeah, I mean, something's wrong with the Raiders when some of their top brass that, you never read their names in the paper. You may not even know who they are, and you have to actually look them up and see who they are. When veteran NFL reporters are reporting that they're shocked, that they're stunned, that these were people with great reputations, known to do good things. I mean, when they're leaving and resigning or quitting, whatever you want to call it, that's not a good sign.
It just, that team had a lot. You know, you're picking up the pieces after the whole Jamarcus Russell era, if you want to call it that. And so now you're looking at the Raiders going into this year with Matt Flynn, who basically has 2 games under his belt that made everybody think he could be a world beater, which you really don't know what you're getting, you know. And then they have Darren McFadden, who, when he's healthy, is as good a running back as there is in the league. Mm-hmm. But then you get to the wideouts, and you got Jacoby Ford and Denarius Moore, Jerron Kreiner, Rod Streeter, you know, tight ends that aren't going to light the world on fire. And you look at that offensive line. Where do you expect to go?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's one of those things that, you know, I mean, I have Darren McFadden as a RB2, and I think a mid-level RB2. But it's a concern. You look at that offensive line and you go, even if he stays healthy, what's he going to get with every single carry? I mean, there's only so much you can do. But you have to hope for the best. He's a talented guy, and that they figure this out. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, pretty much, you could probably ask anybody. They'll say between them and the Jaguars, those are probably the 2 worst teams in the NFL right now, just when you look at them on paper. How they roll out their teams is a different story. But, and you know, and I hate it because, I mean, it's hard to look at Matt Flynn, somebody who I actually kind of like, and you have to rank him low because of his situation, not necessarily because of his talent. I don't think he's been given the full opportunity to thrive. Mm-hmm. Even though I have to say, when he did come in for Aaron Rodgers, he did a great job. Mm-hmm. And he probably did it behind an offensive line that, you know, I'm starting to think that the Packers, that offensive line looks better because of Aaron Rodgers, not for any other reason. I think they've got their own issues and they're trying to deal with them. You know, and Matt Flynn might surprise us. I'm hoping that my belief in him, that he's a better he can execute better than people give him credit for, comes out this year.
We're going to find out, as far as backup to starter, whether he's Tom Brady or Matt Castle this year.
I'm sorry?
When we talk about going from players that went from backup to starter, we'll find out if he's more Tom Brady or he's more Matt Castle.
Well, you know, I don't know that's Matt Castle.
I know he went to Kansas City, and Brady still had all the
I'll tell you what, if
around.
Matt Flynn were on the Patriots, I think everybody would be very hyped up right now, saying that, you know, he's got one of the top 5, top 10, whatever you want to call them, offensive lines in front of him. They would be saying what a great quarterback he could be. And Matt Castle already proved that he could be a great quarterback. So, you know, Matt Castle, on the other hand, didn't do such a great job with the Chiefs, and he's had opportunities to. I mean, you look at their offensive line now, even though they did draft, what's his name?
Jokel. Did they end up with
Jokel? Or no, Jokel ended up with the Jaguars. Lane Johnson with the Eagles, Eric Fisher.
Yeah, that one.
Even though now they have arguably 2 of the best tackles, I mean, you know, the offensive line for the Chiefs last year wasn't all that bad, right. And he struggled nonetheless. So, you know, we'll see. I'm interested to see how Alex Smith does. I'm interested to see how Matt Castle does when he gets his opportunity to start. You know, there's a bunch of interesting stories. Chad Henne, there's another guy that should be able to become the starter at some point this season. You know, I hope I'm wrong for the Jaguars' sake, but you know, there's been nothing good that's come out of Jacksonville so far in terms of their quarterback situation. Chad Henne looks like the better of the 2.
You can't bring up Michigan players to Steve. He gets all jittery.
Denard Robinson? Actually, you know,
did you see
my sleepers article today?
No, I did not.
Denard Robinson is on my list of sleepers.
Did you see what?
Hey, I have a lot of respect for Denard Robinson because he's a player that had the balls to go in at whatever position a team would hire him at. And that to me shows somebody that's dedicated to being a professional. So I have a lot of respect for him.
Did you see what he's listed as on the Jaguars roster?
No, what's he listed as?
Offensive weapon. He's not a running back. He's not a quarterback. He's not a tight end or wide receiver. He's listed as offensive weapon.
That's probably the best description of what he will be on the Jaguars.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's one of those things where his numbers, he was when he came out, they asked him to come in as a wide receiver. So at the Senior Bowl, he worked out as a wide receiver. He was banged up at the time, so in all fairness, I can't say that it was a good way to evaluate him. But when he took off his red jersey and wore the normal white one, and he was having a hard time catching balls. And then as I looked into his college stats, I think he caught 3 balls his entire time in college. He's primarily a runner and primarily a passer. And so on a team that, is potentially going to have issues at quarterback, he's a small guy. He's fast. If he could sort of work into being a Darren Sproles type of player, that would be great. In terms of being a prototypical running back, I don't quite see that. So that's why he's sort of a sleeper. And, Maurice Jones-Drew, I'm hoping he's healthy. Otherwise, I'm going to drop him out of as a low RB1 and drop him probably as a low RB2. Denard Robinson could have an opportunity to do some work here.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
If he gets 10 to 15 touches a week, that's good enough to sort of be an RB3 or a flex play in fantasy football. Certainly a bye-week replacement.
There's a lot of question marks about the Jaguars where if everything breaks right, they're not going to be as bad as what we're used to. But that doesn't mean they're going to be good. And I think that's kind of where you got to temper the expectations if you're a Jaguars fan. And from a fantasy standpoint, I think the upside on Denard Robinson is Percy Harvin, and the downside is Tim Tebow.
Yeah. But and for a team to, I'm not going to say it, I think it would be a victory for them if they are, as you said, not as bad as what they usually are, regardless of the fact if they finish 500 or whatnot. I think any little improvement will be very good for them and for the league.
At the end of last season, they started to come on as a football team. They primarily came on because Chad Henne was under center and was able to make some plays, get the wide receivers back into the game. They had a couple of backup running backs that, probably are not they're not workhorse type running backs. They took a beating, and I think they lost pretty much all their running backs due to injury last season. Mm. So, they needed to make a couple moves during the offseason, which they didn't make. One, you either roll with Chad Henne or you go get yourself a different quarterback. And there were some they could have gotten in free agency or at least drafted one in the draft, and they didn't do that. Maurice Jones-Drew is still on the roster, and, I'm getting this feeling, and this is why I worry about it, is he sounds like he might be ready for camp, but he may not be ready for week 1. Then when is he going to be ready? How long is he going to be out? I'm not sure that Maurice Jones-Drew really wants to be in Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. And, a team like this has to make these kinds of decisions. What are we doing with some of these players? Mm-hmm. You're better off getting into a draft and retooling your team with young, talented players and shooting for a couple years out as opposed to patchwork, maybe not getting the right guys in the right places. Because, their draft should have been very simple. Best available player, go draft them.
Exactly.
And that wasn't exactly what happened. And I covered this in my review of their offseason. For example, when they took Denard Robinson, I think Andre Ellington was on the board. There was one other running back who was clearly either, if not an every down running back, they were an every down running back in college. They fit the position better than Denard Robinson. They drafted Ace Sanders, and Ace Sanders, he was drafted earlier than I think many expect. There were a couple of really good wide receivers that they could have drafted instead of him, and they didn't. So there are all these question marks as to what they did and why they did it. And who's driving that decision process, I have no idea.
You look at Maurice Jones-Drew, he's 28, and he just had a birthday in March, so he'll be 28 all year. So next year, I mean, if he misses part of this year, next year he's 29, and we all know what happens to running backs once they get north of 30. Mm-hmm. You know, so if I'm the Jacksonville Jaguars and I don't get my bang for my buck out of Maurice Jones-Drew, there's no, I can't put him on the trading block fast enough to try to get something from him.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, the hope here is that Maurice Jones-Drew is fine, that he steps out on the field and gives it his all, gives the entire team some hope to focus to next year, which may be his last or second to last year that, you know, he could potentially be a starter. So, I don't know. Cross your fingers and hope for the best, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, his name is Jim Saranteas. Follow him on Twitter at @TheFantasyGreek. Follow his website, thefantasygreek.com. Thank you once again for joining us, Jim. We'll see you.
Guys, as usual, thank you. Have a great evening.
Take care. It was a pleasure.
All right, guys. Take it easy.
All right. We'll take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk a little Major League Baseball. You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio.
Got you bugging out, stressing. Shut your mouth. Lessons are learned as I'm pressing the verbs. Nothing's left of you herbs. Out of breath on the curb. Cause of death every word I say. And spray like venom. Y'all fade like denim. You say I don't be right, but I seem to be the guy y'all wanna be like. Oh, he's a beginner. Leave you shriveled like them leaves in the winter. Feel the anxiety when you're eyeing me. Sporting shiny outfits that be blinding me. While I'm on stage performing, I ignore cause y'all not important. A portion of this got you coughing and ish. Switch it up, sip the cup cause y'all too scared to guzzle. Put a muzzle on me. 23rd, who you be? Spread the word, wait and see. Hate me, blatantly, shame me, maim me, try and tame me.
Y'all be nervous when you hear all our rhymes. Nervous when you're seeing us shine. Nervous because we're one of a kind. And every time you're still hitting rewind. Nervous is that look on your face. Nervous soon as we step in the place. Nervous and you won't get a taste of the way we roll. Oh, what a waste.
Yo, the haters got nervous when we purchased our first mic. Especially those that haven't heard the kind of words that we recite. Now they burdened by the fact they can't determine what's our type. They should do themselves a service not to hurt themselves or try to figure out, comprehend, attempt to try to grasp this movement. Since this language that I use is proved to be a bit confusing. No matter what I mention, y'all still keep the rumors spreading. But stay on the path you're heading if intending to contend against a group of human beings whose abilities extend far beyond your comprehension. Ascension I detect connected with your apprehension. I predicted when you figured we exist in a dimension that's different from your own, from what you would consider home. Linger deep beneath the streets are all alone in catacombs. Anxiety has shown, bones are shaking in your hand. You're falling for our plan, cause people like you tend to fear what you just cannot understand.
Y'all be nervous when you hear all our rhymes. Nervous when you're seeing us shine. Nervous because we're one of a kind. And every time you're still hitting rewind. Nervous is that look on your face. Nervous soon as we step in the place. Nervous and you won't get a taste of the way we roll. Oh, what a waste. From last generation to X generation to this generation, the next generation. The best to be Jason, the whip is a bust, no doubt about it. I don't give a, I'm at the top of my game. Untouchable and I'm not gonna change. I swear, this weather here's a lot of the same. You're shaking cause I'm replacing your spot with my name. Watch me retain, refrain from hanging from my test and kills. Everybody looking like they wanna test my skills. I won't say I'm the best until I retire. Half y'all won't get me still. The other half is one of the reasons I picked up a pen and let you know what I'm thinking. My words got your vision all blurred. Still you're staring a hole through me, calm your nerves. Y'all be nervous when you hear all our rhymes. Nervous when you're seeing us shine.
look on your face. Nervous, soon as we step in the place. Nervous, and you won't get a taste of the way we roll. Oh, what a waste.
Yo, I don't know why you guys are so nervous for. Oh, wait. I know why. Cause 857's changing the face of hip-hop. So rebirth. Bottom line, right? New revolution. Y'all nervous because we about to change things around here. Hell, I be nervous too. Cause y'all might be out of the job.
You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. The last 10 minutes of another illustrious show.
Great show.
Spent the first hour talking NBA free agency and revisiting the whole Dwight Howard mess, unfortunately. And then we had another fantastic segment with Jim Saranteas, the Fantasy Greek, from thefantasygreek.com, on Twitter, @thefantasygreek. Talking NFL news and notes. If you guys listen to this show regularly and you hear that segment, we usually start with 2 or 3 topics, and then by the end of that segment, we end up having talked about 8 or 9, and usually come out with 1 or 2 subjects completely out of left field, just because we all love talking football so much.
And the scary part is it's not even football season. When football season starts, I think we're going to have to set aside a solid hour block for that segment.
Yeah. So we got 9 minutes left in the shoe, 9.5 minutes. And the Major League Baseball All-Star Game is coming up, and there's a tad bit controversy, not over a starter, but over whether Yasiel Puig, the Dodgers right fielder phenomenon, I just like saying that word, phenomenon. I apologize. I guess he's played a bunch of center field as well and left field, so I guess we should just call him an outfielder. Whether or not he deserves to be in the All-Star Game, because he's only played in 34 games. Now, I guess I'll hang up and listen to your answer off the air. Just kidding.
Okay.
I'm not hanging up. Don't go anywhere. Do you believe that Yasiel Puig, I love saying that name, belongs in the All-Star Game?
Absolutely. I mean, he is, right now, I don't think there's any argument, he is the best player in baseball. He is the most exciting. He's gained so much notoriety in not only the sports media, but in the regular press, that how you could have somebody that's obviously going to be a fan favorite. You know, who knows if this is going to last? Who knows if this is just a flash in the pan, a situation he has going on right now? And with the Dodgers, I mean, I've seen players that have had this kind of start to a season, maybe not to the level of success that he's had, but then after the All-Star break, they kind of cool off. But as of right now, he is the best player in baseball. He has helped the Dodgers go from the bottom of the National League West to now the number 2 team behind Arizona. And he is what the fans want to see in that All-Star game. And if you think about it, there's no one else playing that position right now, or that has played the entire season at that position, that statistically and impact-wise on the team and the league in general, there's nobody that is better than him right now. There just isn't. And there's nobody, and for all of those naysayers that think that he doesn't belong because he's only played 34 games, I mean, get over yourself. The Major League Baseball All-Star Game is the best All-Star game in professional sports, and I'm just going to stick by that. It still is the best All-Star game in professional sports, and to take somebody like Puig and the way he started this season and not put him in that game, I think would be a monumental mistake by baseball, especially with all of the stuff going on right now with the performance-enhancing drugs and the news coming out that all these top-notch players are going to be suspended. Why do you not want to take this great story with Puig and put him on the pedestal? Like, now is the time where you need to take him and put him in the limelight to kind of take away from all the negativity. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
And so to me, I think it's a no-brainer. Like, it's if he doesn't make the All-Star break, it is the stupidest move that Major League Baseball has made. Like, even if the fans, because I know it's kind of, he's in that fan voting right now, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, if he doesn't make it in through the fan voting, which I think he will, they need to find a way to get him in that game, because he's the face of baseball right now.
So Puig's got 34 games under his belt, okay? And the Dodgers, for the last 30 games, they're 18-12. The last 20 games, they're 15-5. Last 10 games, 8-2. And all of that correlates. Now, baseball is probably the most individualistic team sport that there is. Just because there's, in football you've got more players, but you're all working as a cohesive unit. Teamwork is absolutely necessary. Baseball, it's teamwork, but it's just different because everyone has to do their individual part. Okay, you're at the plate alone. You're in the field for the most part. You're in your own little zone, your own little area, and usually you're a good distance away from each other, even in the infield, even though you're closer than you are in the outfield, obviously. So my point in going on that whole rambling rant right there was to say that it's just that it's hard for a one individual to have that much of an impact. But you cannot deny that the Dodgers were floundering before this young man got called up.
Oh, absolutely.
And now he is leading the charge. They are 1 game under 500. They're 2.5 games behind the Arizona Diamondbacks, who, by the way, I picked to win the division, just for the record.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say that.
Yep, I'm sorry. It's a long way to go, and I'll probably be wrong by the end of the season, but I just want to call. I did not call the Giants being in last place, but anyway. And he is the story in baseball. And if the All-Star game, any All-Star game, is the fans' game, okay? And I think baseball and Bogdacic, even though other people actually give him kudos for this, I think he crossed a line by trying to make the All-Star game count for something and determine home field advantage in the playoffs or the World Series anyway. It's the fans' game. And I have not heard a significant contingent of fans who believe that Puig should not be in this game. It's all the baseball hoity-toity, experts, quote-unquote experts, that believe that this is for the integrity of the game. We should be consistent and all that other junk and mess. Anything that goes on in the All-Star game will pale in comparison to when Yasiel Puig steps in that batter's box.
Yeah. And what kills me is it was Papelbon that was against him being in it, correct?
Yeah, he was one of them, yes.
Yeah. It's people like him that make me sick. You are a freaking relief pitcher. Puig, in the 34 games he's played, has already played more minutes in the season than you. At least played probably twice as many minutes as Papelbon. But Papelbon's saying, well, he's not played a full. You just need to shut up. Like, really, that kind of stuff is that kind of mentality. And like you were saying about the quote unquote, ruining tradition naysayers, that's what's going to kill baseball. You need to embrace tradition, but you need to learn to kind of step away from it and bring the game up into the mainstream, because it's getting passed by the NBA and the NFL right now. So they need to really think about what they're doing.
Well, you look at Puig. Okay, so 34 games. So if he had been up there on opening day, that would put him probably like the first week of May. Okay, if we're going by the calendar. He's still batting. He's batting .407. He's still batting over 400. Mm-hmm. He's got an OPS of 1.101, which is outstanding.
That's insane.
He's got 8 home runs, driven in 19 runs, and scored 26 of his own.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, he's stolen 5 bases.
Yeah.
And
he's a solid defensive player.
If you don't think that he's one of the best players in the National League based on what he's done, again, by the end of the season, maybe the book will catch up on him. It's a game of adjustments. Maybe he won't be able to make the adjustment. Maybe the pitchers will finally get a read on what his weakness is, and maybe by the end of the season we'll be singing a different tune. But as we speak right now, I understand him not being a starter, but if to leave him off that roster would be as egregious an error as a sports league could make these days.
Absolutely. And that's the thing is, he is proving the fact, and what I think he might be able to continue this run after the All-Star break is it isn't the fact that he's hitting a lot of home runs or he's being this big power hitter. He is just a solid hitter. He's able to get the single, get the double, get the triple. He's able to get those hits that will transition past just the home runs. So I think this could be something that will last.
Oh, it's a mania for sure. The other night he ran into the wall and he had to leave the game because he ran into the wall.
It was awful too.
Yeah, the next day on SportsCenter they were debating if there's problems with the way Puig plays the game. What? He's got 34 games in. We may have an idea of what his style of play is, but before we start talking about whether it's good or bad, right or wrong, can we at least let the guy have a full season?
Negativity sells, you know that.
Oh my God, I'm so tired of the first takes and everything, and everyone just rattling on crap just to try to just to have something to talk about. And honestly, if we had any sense of decency about us as a society, we would boycott that damn show, because all it does is just fuel the idiocy.
Oh, I haven't watched it in forever.
Yeah, but people do, and that's why
that's too
they
bad.
still do it. So, yeah, we don't even have time to get into another topic. I wanted to talk about Ryan Braun and how I think he's a ridiculous liar and should be banned from the game, but we'll have to save that for another time.
I will put in one thing. Good riddance, Alex Rodriguez.
What about Alex Rodriguez?
Good riddance to bad rubbish.
We'll see you next week, folks.
Bye.
Post-game show is brought to you by Christ, I can't find it. The hell with it.